If you have a lower lumbar spine injury, right down here at the bottom of the lower back, then there are only two scenarios in which you should be using a weightlifting belt whilst you're in the gym training or whilst you are lifting weights. The first is if you're a powerlifter, you're at a competitive event and you're looking to break records, whether that's on a local, world stage or regional stage, you're looking to break boundaries, break personal bests and lift as much as you possibly can and need whatever edge you can to get that done. The second person is if you've got a lower lumbar disc injury and you are looking to make it substantially worse than it already is. Now I know that's a bit of a bold statement. It's a little bit like, what's going on here? But we will explain all of that in this video, why using a weightlifting belt is the worst thing you could possibly do. And hopefully you're really going to understand why in the first part of this video. I'm not going to lead with a statement like that without backing it up. So let me show you exactly why it is not a good idea. First and foremost, when we're injuring the lumbar spine, we are talking here about the last two discs down the bottom here. And the very first thing you're going to notice here is that they are sat in within this pelvic ring. This is called the iliac crest. It's the bony bit on the side of our hips. And this point here is at the level or just above that L4-5 disc. And it's commonly 4-5 or 5S1 that we have injured and that we're trying to protect. And bearing in mind, we can't get the belt right on top to this disc here, or on top to the bone here. It's generally going to sit on a bit of soft tissue, so it's really going to be up here, around about the mid to upper section of the lumbar spine. Now, what is the belt doing? It's supposed to be providing stability and support and protection, an extra fulcrum to provide compression to allow us to transmit force all the way through the spine and through the soft tissues here as well. But what it does do is it braces for movement. Much like if you've got a battle rope, those ropes that you swing in the gym and you put a wave along the rope, if we had a bit of tubing or a bit of piping halfway along that rope, it's going to create wear and tear at the top and bottom because the section that the pipe is on, the section that the belt's on, doesn't move very well. So what we do when we use these weightlifting belts is we put them on and they're going to be around about here at this level because we can't get them to protect the ones that are actually injured. And then what happens is the movement that happens during our powerlifting or during our moving around in the gym is going to be focused through the two segments that we were trying to protect because we can't get the belt right down there. So right out the gate, we're actually trying to use a belt as support for an area that we can't target with that belt and support, at the same time putting more stress and strain through these segments because they have to compensate for the movement that's not being done at the level of the belt. Now that just makes absolutely no sense, especially if we have a lower back injury at the level of the L4-5 or L5S1, which is like the amount of times you're in the gym and you see people walking around with these belts on. They're not even doing deadlifts or squats, they're just doing bench press over in the corner. But all those little movements now that they're happening while you're moving around normally are being focused at these two segments. And then you go over and say, hey man, how come you're using the belt to do bench press? They say, oh yeah, I'm using it, I'm doing 50 kilos or whatever it is, but I've got a bad back. And I say, you're gonna have a worse back if you carry on doing that. Think about what you're doing, please. There's no need to cause unnecessary suffering. Back pain can be a serious problem and really affect multiple facets of your life. Using a weightlifting belt to make it worse, it doesn't help at all. So I want to show you guys a little bit of an example as well on this video. Now you can see on the video here, I'm putting the weightlifting belt on, and to be honest, I've got a bit of a short body and I've got long legs. So it looks like it's really high on me, but as you can see on the video, I've got the belt as close to this iliac crest as possible. So it's as low down in my lumbar spine, but even so, I'm nowhere near the L5S1 and the L4-5 joints at all when I'm wearing it. But you can see at least me putting it on here. So I tried to get some good reps and some bad reps, both with the belt and without the belt. Now I'm someone that always lifts without a belt. I never use these sorts of things. So there is of course going to be a little bit of technical difficulty or a little bit of it's out of the ordinary for me and my movement patterns. But you can see my squats, my deadlifts, are much better when I'm not using the belt. It took a bit of thinking to actually get to round that back when I'm doing it. But you can see when you do round the back, it focuses that movement even more to the level of the L4-5 and L5S1 when we're wearing the belt. Really, you're so much better off focusing on learning to do these movements effectively so that it's almost difficult for you to do them badly. And please bear in mind, I'm only doing a lightweight here, we're doing 60 kilos. I mentioned at the very start of this video, if you're doing a powerlifting meet, sure, there are reasons to use them. They wouldn't be used by athletes all over the world to break records if they weren't helpful in some way, but we're talking about back health. And that brings me on to the next part of this video. Why are we working out in the first place? Chances are if you're training to improve the overall health and condition. You're probably not someone who is competing on an international or on a local level, but you're training to stay healthy. So the very first thing when you're thinking about using a weightlifting belt is going to be, why am I training? Why am I using supports? Why am I using braces? These are the sorts of things, especially when it comes to the back. If we can't even target the section that we want to target. Now, if I've sprained my wrist and I'm using it on my bench press and other exercises, then I can actually put a strap that protects the wrist at the level of the joint that's injured. People still get it wrong there, and we can get into that in another video. But with the lower back, we can't even use the weightlifting belt in the target region. So why on earth we'd be using it in the first place is really beyond me. Now, when we get on to the next point of why we're training to be strong. We're training so that the activities of daily living are easier. We're training maybe for body composition. We want our core to be strong. We want to look with abs coming out. We want a nice strong lower back for function and for the visible appearance that it has as well. Why would we use something that arguably takes the load, takes the strain off those tissues? That makes no sense in that respect either. We want to train surely in a way that's going to trigger our body to use those muscles in the best possible way to provide support for our spines so we're safer outside, and also engages those muscles maximally so we can get the maximum benefit from our workout and actually get hypertrophy and get an adaptation response so the muscles look better as well and we burn fat, etc., etc. So, of course, if you're going to be wearing that weightlifting belt 24/7 inside and outside the gym, when you're carrying the suitcase, when you're emptying the washing and all those other things, then sure, maybe there's rationale for you to use the weightlifting belt. But if you're walking up to the gym, you're putting a weightlifting belt on and you're doing bicep curls or you're doing your squats and your deadlifts, etc., please think again if you're trying to do it for your overall health and well-being. Most athletes do not need to use these. Definitely most lay people do not need to use these. And if you've got a lower back problem, there are things that you need to do to actually seriously help that. And that is where you need to be targeting to build up your core. You need to learn to move correctly. If you're making some of those errors, like the bad technique deadlifts that I was doing earlier on, then you need to fix that. And you don't need a weightlifting belt to do that. You need form, you need videos, you need to have a look at what you're doing, you need appropriate training to make sure that we are moving correctly. And that's a really, really important part. If you're someone watching this video and you've come this far and you are thinking, look man, I've got a bad disc, I thought the weightlifting belt was going to help, but I don't know what to do now, then do make sure you click the link above here or in the description to learn more about the Back in Shape program. That is where we help people just like you start doing the right things and at the same time stop doing the wrong things that are making these problems worse. Using the belt is going to make you worse, so cut that out. We want to learn how to start to move correctly again. We want to learn how to engage our core correctly again. One of the big problems with some of the bigger guys that have been training, and maybe you've been training for many years and you've only recently injured the lower back, is that because we've been training for so long, we've kind of masked over certain weaknesses, and actually this gives you an opportunity to start to build back up from the foundation and quickly move through and address some of those weaknesses and then get back into the sorts of workouts that you really want to enjoy without the need for any of these sorts of supports. So you can click the link above here and down here to learn more about the program. Hopefully you did find this video helpful. It is a remake of one of our old videos, which is very, very popular. And we wanted to go into a little bit more detail to help you guys better understand why with some visual demonstrations, because that first video was very, very short and we didn't necessarily explore some of the extra concepts that we have in this video. If you have stuck around, you find these videos helpful, then remember you can always subscribe to the channel. And if you have a friend that is using a weightlifting belt to protect his lower back, definitely share this video with them because it will hopefully help them avoid making things worse on purpose or by accident. As always, thanks for watching and we will see you in the next video.